So I got a cool video for everyone today. As we all know, Apple just hosted their WWDC for 2024 on Monday morning. And as such, they went over all of their new software announcements, their new software for iOS, iPadOS, and macOS, and visionOS, and a slew of other things. But what I'm going to be covering in this particular video today is iOS 18. So in this video, I'm going to be just kind of going over some of the major new features and changes that are in this particular update. I'm not going to be going into each of them in depth. I will be doing that in a series of upcoming videos to focus on more of the individual features by themselves. Getting started, so the number one most anticipated and the number one highlighted feature of this update is the fact that we can now rearrange our home screen icons to anywhere, any place we would like, which is something that I have personally wanted for many, many years at this point. And I know that Android has had this forever at this point, but it's really nice to see that Apple is now implementing it in iOS. So the way it works is you can keep your home screen as a grid, just like it is now and has always been. But what you can do now is go into the edit mode, and you can then now drag an icon anywhere on the screen. So you can see right there, I can put it right there, kind of over on the side if I want. So yeah, so we can just continue to do this, add this app, say here, let's take this one and put it kind of down over in this bottom corner. And I don't know, let's say move Outlook over to here. And let's actually move YouTube Studio over to there. So you see, you can now put the icons legitimately anywhere on the home screen, and that's exactly where they'll stay. So that is really, really cool. Exactly something that we've been wanting for many, many, many years at this point. So it's really, really cool to see that now being implemented. One thing, though, that still frustrates me on how this particular thing works and how Apple's implemented it is the fact that if you move an icon from, say, somewhere in the middle of a group of icons, so let's say Waze up here at the top, if I take Waze and move it down here, you notice that all of those other icons just automatically by themselves shifted. So they did not hold their position. So if you want to put them back, you have to manually rearrange them back. So then if I put Waze back to where they were, or where it was, you can see that it shuffles them again and puts all the icons back to where they initially were. So that in itself right there is something that really still irritates me and frustrates me, because what I would prefer is if I take, say, Waze and I move it down, I would much prefer all these other icons to not shift on their own. They should technically stay put and not move. But unfortunately, it seems like, at least in beta 1, that is how that works. So I don't particularly care for that, unfortunately. Hopefully that will get a little bit more refined, and maybe that's just something that Apple has not worked out yet, and maybe by the final release that will be changed. So yeah, that is one little area of the rearranging of the icons that still is a fairly annoying aspect. But it is still nice that you can indeed, again, put icons anywhere on the screen. And if I say here on this screen, this gives you another fairly decent idea on how it works. You got a widget over here, you can move it left or right and anywhere on the screen. Got 3 icons just randomly placed. But they still stick to a very specific grid, so you cannot put them truly anywhere on your home screen. So if I wanted to move this, say, icon up just slightly, it will not do it. It'll stick back to a predefined grid. So there is still specific locations that they will snap to. So it's not completely free moving, but it's still way better than what we had before. And then another aspect of the home screen customization is you can now actually change the color and look of the icons, which is something that I actually did not expect Apple to ever do, but they've actually now implemented that. So in the top right corner, we see this edit button now. If you hit that, you get two options. You have add widget or customize, and if you hit customize, you get a few options down at the bottom to change the way your icons look. So you have small icons, large icons, which makes the icons just a little bit bigger and takes away the icon text at the bottom. And it kind of gives a little bit of a cleaner look to the overall home screen. It's kind of a nice, sleek design, if you ask me. And then we have the actual icon colors down here. So we have dark mode or light mode, which is automatic, dark, or light. And automatic will basically change the darkness, rather, of the icons depending on if you have dark mode enabled or not. So if I go in Control Center and turn on dark mode, you can see right away everything looks entirely different now. So when dark mode is enabled, all icons on the home screen will now reflect dark mode as well, which is really cool. Any icon that has a white background will now be black. And some icons, however, don't change, such as App Store for some reason does not change itself to make it into a dark mode. That could be just a little bit of a bug, and hopefully that'll change by the final release. And then I'm assuming third-party developers will also have to implement this, because as we see here, YouTube and Firefox did not change. And if we slide over, Waze and Apple Store and some of these other icons didn't change to go into a dark mode. So third-party developers will have to update their apps icons to reflect this change. So if I go back out of dark mode, you can see right away now all the icons go back to their standard colors. So let's go ahead and go back into edit. And so you can, again, like I said, you don't have to have it be automatic if you want. If you want to have your icons always dark mode, you can do that. And now the icons will persistently stay in a dark mode color, which is really great. Even though if say we go into, let's say photos, the operating system itself is still in light mode, but the icons will be dark. So that's pretty neat. And same thing goes for if you want to be basically how it was before iOS 18. So if you want to have all the icons stay in a light mode, but you put the system in a dark mode, you can keep the icons in their normal color, but again, the system itself will be in a dark mode. So it's really, really interesting and kind of neat that you can customize all that. And then lastly, over here at the very end, we have an option called Tinted, which is really intriguing. And this is the aspect that I did not ever expect Apple to implement. It's really almost unlike them to even offer something like this. But basically what tinting does is it allows you to legitimately change the color of all of the icons all at once. So it's kind of like theming. So you can give a color theme to legitimately every app icon on your device. Some colors don't actually look very good, such as this red color here looks kind of weird. But some colors, if you can kind of fine tune it enough, you can get it to where it looks pretty cool. So if we go to, say, kind of a bluish color, right, kind of in there, lighten it up just a little bit, that kind of could look pretty cool for those that want to have a really customized, different look to their home screens. You can now do that. Again, though, some of the icons don't look entirely right, like maps, contacts, and some of these third-party apps actually kind of looks pretty weird. It just looks like a blue filter has been placed over top of it. So it's not 100% there, obviously, but it is a interesting feature on here. So another cool thing that you can do regarding the home screen is you can now hide apps behind a passcode, essentially. So if you want to say, let's say YouTube Studio here, and you want to hide it so no one else can see it, and you want to basically require a password or Face ID, or in this case, Touch ID, since I'm using a Touch ID iPhone here, to add that extra little bit of layer of security to get access to that particular app. Personally, I could see this being incredibly useful for banking apps and apps that are dealing with money and such as that. It'd be good to require just to have an extra layer of security. So if we hit require touch ID, you get two options. You can do just require touch ID, or you can hide and require touch ID. So if I do hide, you have to verify. It'll have the splash screen. It'll say hide YouTube Studio, obscure app icon, and name. And no notifications or calls will come from that particular app while it is hidden. So if you're okay with that, you hit hide. See, now it's gone. So if I go over to the app library, scroll all the way down, you see this hidden section now. And the only way you can access that is if you tap it. It'll say Touch ID or Face ID, whichever type of device you're using. And then straight away, your now hidden icons will show up right in there. And then you can go and do this and don't require Face ID or Touch ID. You can unauthenticate. If you want it back on your home screen, you have to go and then manually do that. Add to home screen, and then there it's back. Okay, moving on. We have a completely redesigned control center now. As you can see here, it looks basically similar to how it was, but some of the icons have changed. So you see down here, the primary icons are now circular instead of a square, like we had previously. By bringing in a different device, running an older software version, you can see this is the old control center that we have currently, where all the icons are square, and you cannot move anything around technically. Whereas in this one, it's a lot more slick looking rather. So you have all the controls in the general same location as they had previously, but the cool thing is now it is fully customizable. If I press and hold anywhere, it'll go into kind of an edit mode similar to that of the home screen. And you can then from here, take any of these little icons, or buttons rather, and place them literally anywhere within the control center. So if that's how you want your control center to look, and have the icons randomly, sporadically put like that, you can easily now do that, which is really cool. So now the cool thing too is that the top icons that were previously fixed in a particular location are also now movable. So say these two big squares, you can also move these around. You could say put it there. I can maybe put this right down over here, and it sticks over here. Or if I want to put it back up here, you could do that. Or move music, whoops. Yeah, there you go, move music right there. And then you see these little grab handles on basically everything. That is allowing you to resize the controls. So let's say music, you want to stretch it over this way, and you can now have a larger music control and move everything down. Or if you want to shrink music but leave it horizontal, you can squeeze it up. And now it's a little bit smaller, but still taking up the length of the top of the screen. Or if you want to go all out and have it really big, you can pull it way down, and now you got a really big music control. So that is a really cool thing. Same thing for this button over here. This one actually does not work, because if you stretch it out, let me move it back over here. So if you stretch it and try to move it, you see it's a little bit glitchy. It's hard to sometimes grab. You can see it doesn't work entirely right. It kind of glitches and shoves everything out of the way. And then you can see right there, things are coming off the screen a little bit. So, and the fact of that one doesn't work. You can also move those around. And you can also expand the smaller icons as well. So you can grab one of these, say camera, you can end up making a really big button. You can make it a narrow, kind of flat looking rectangular button, or you could put it back to a circle. So pretty interesting. Again, I would have never expected Apple to do something as much of customization as this here, but it's cool that they have. And then you also get different pages. So you see these two icons got shoved over to an additional page by accident. And then below that, you have a dedicated music page, which is pretty cool. Again, you can delete these pages as well. If you don't want individual pages and you want everything to try to fit on one page, you can indeed do that as well. You can hit that little minus button up there. And then below that, you have a dedicated connection page where you can turn Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, airplane mode, all that good stuff on and off. And then if you want to add a new page, you can see when you go into edit mode, down at the bottom here, you can see there's a new completely blank slate, and you can hit add control, and there is an entire huge list of different buttons and controls that you can add into here now. One of which that I really like is that you can add shortcuts. So you can hit this here, which is open app. And when you hit that, you can hold on it and go into create a shortcut straight away, and it'll add a shortcut specifically for that button that you can basically make it do whatever you want, which is really cool. That's pretty cool there. And then if we go back to the main page, we're back to the main page here. There's one other little secret thing that I actually didn't know about right away. In the very top right hand corner, there is a power button. So if you want to turn your phone off without actually pressing the side button, or the lock button rather, you can press that and it goes into the power off slider. The Photos app got a new updated layout. So if we go into the Photos app, you can see it's fairly similar, but is very different at the same time. So this is how your grid of the icons or the photos would look. Then you have your standard all, months, or years to go back forward through that. And then you have sorting options as well, which is kind of nice. But if you slide up, it reveals this bottom section, which you have recent days, people and pets, pinned collections, memories, trips, albums, featured photos, media types, utilities, and all of that. And then you can actually customize this section. Basically, that's the theme of iOS 18. It's basically adding customization across the entire system, effectively. So you can now change these sections. You can move them around if you want. If you don't want one there entirely, say you don't want your favorites, you can delete the favorite section. Your collections, you can, if you don't like any of these, like people and pets or pinned, you can turn those off and remove it, and basically remove some of the clutter. And then if we scroll back up, you can see pinned and the people and pets sections are now gone. But I'm so far not a huge fan of this update layout, because to me it seems a little overcomplicated, because there's a lot going on and a lot of different things to click on and view. And then at the top here, there's a different little sliding carousel, I guess you would call it, that you could customize this and add different things within that. But again, it's to me a little bit clunky and not really that intuitive. I'm someone that just likes to have my grid of photos and scrolling through them, and sorting by, like I said, months or years and things like that. But to have all this other stuff is a little almost too much. But again, you can customize down here and effectively remove all of this to clean it up, if you don't want to have any of that. So that's kind of nice. But anyway, yeah, so that's the updated Photos app. Moving on to Messages. So Messages got a pretty significant update. First of which, RCS support is now available, or will be available, within texting. So any messages and texts that are between an iPhone and an Android device that support RCS, you'll now get that enhanced capability and feature set offered by RCS messaging. Then there are some iMessage specific features though, some of which I really, really like. There are text effects. You go into, say, test. On the right hand side here, you see this little A. If you click on that, you get some new text effects. Basically it'll move. Some of them will shake, some will explode. So let's say we want to do explode. It'll now add explode to that bit of text that I have right there. And then you can also have formatting options, so you can underline, italicize, bold, or strike through. One thing that I incredibly like is the fact that you can actually schedule a text message now with an iMessage. Now, message scheduling does not work with SMS, so it only works with iMessages, unfortunately. Hopefully, maybe that'll change in the future, but at least right now it's iMessage only. But if we go into the little plus icon and hit more, you now have this option right here called Send Later. If we click Send Later, it allows you to bring up a date wheel or a time wheel. So let's say I want this message to be sent at 9:44 p.m. And if we hit go or send, kind of circles it, a dotted outline of the message. And then once the message actually sends at 9:44, which is still 9:43 right now, you'll see that that message will automatically jump and will turn blue and will send to the recipient. And then there you go. You can see it immediately sent, and now it says delivered, and it did that on its own. So if you want to do this and you, like, say it's late at night, 10 o'clock, for example, right now, and you don't want to wake the other person up that you're sending the text to, because that could be technically rude, you could do this, schedule it, and then have it send it off at some point the following morning. So this is an immensely nice thing, and I know Android, again, has also had this feature, and I actually did not know that I actually would want this. But now that I see it and have kind of used it a little bit, I don't think I could live without it. So, really nice. Last thing is there's some updates to TapBack. You can see they have the standard icons here for all of the TapBack responses. But you can also now add an emoji icon as a TapBack rather than just a standard thing from the predefined list. So, let's say I want to put... let's see. Let's say I want to put a picture of a pumpkin. Put that. It taps back with a pumpkin icon. One last thing that I actually cannot demo here because it's not available is the ability to now send SMS text messages as well as iMessages via satellite. Previously, on the iPhone 14 and 15 on iOS 17, the emergency SOS via satellite was only for emergencies. So you could not send just random text message to your friend or family. However, now with iOS 18, that Apple has opened that up. And as long as you're subscribed to the satellite communication subscription, you now are able to send text and iMessages via a satellite at any point in time that you don't have cell service, which is really, really cool. Then the Mail app has gotten a few different updates, which I cannot demonstrate, unfortunately, because it's not available currently. According to Apple, the Mail app updates will come later this fall in the final release, which I find a little bit strange. But nonetheless, there is some new, better organization features for sorting and viewing your mail messages. So not a huge change, but it is a little bit better for someone that has tons of email messages. Moving on, we have an updated Safari, which again, for some reason, I can't demonstrate it because it's not working on this particular phone. I'm not entirely sure why. But Safari now gets web page highlights, to highlight a certain web page and various content within it that you might find relevant, as well as an updated reader mode. Next up here is we have a now dedicated password app, which this I can show. You can see over here we have a specific passwords app now. Rather than previously, you'd have to go into your settings app and go to the password section to gain access to your stored passwords. However, now there is a dedicated passwords app that allows you to do all that in one single place. However, I am not going to do that right here because I don't want to expose any of my current passwords that I have saved. But essentially what is in here is different sections that will organize your passwords, whether they pertain to passkeys, websites, and various things like that. It'll just organize them into specific categories. Maps also got a bit of an update. Unfortunately, another thing that I'm not able to demo, because again, it is not working in beta 1, but that is the fact that now you have access to hiking routes that also have turn-by-turn directions for those hiking routes that you might be on. And you can also have offline map for those said hiking routes as well. So for basically anyone that hikes and likes to see various trails on the map, you can now have that. That's a great update for those folks. And moving on to another feature here that is not yet available, and that is called Game Mode. Game Mode was actually first introduced in macOS Sonoma last year. However, they're now bringing it to effectively everything. So iOS, iPadOS, and as well as macOS all now have what's called Game Mode. And essentially what Game Mode is it's reducing background activities to help sustain higher frame rates while playing a game. as well as reducing lag when using Bluetooth controllers and or Bluetooth headphones. So it just kind of, if you're playing a game, you turn on game mode and it's going to basically provide you with a lot better and more smooth experience. Next up, AirPods now get voice isolation for phone calls with loud sounds that are in the background. This is something I am really intrigued to try out, because I have actually used AirPods while driving a tractor and things like that, and the person that I'm on the phone call with cannot hear a word I say. So I'm curious to see how well this is going to work when driving a loud piece of machinery or something like that. It would be kind of cool. And last thing for an AirPods is that they now have a feature called Nod. So you basically nod yes or no to accept or decline an incoming call. Say, for example, your hands are being used, you're doing something, and you can't actually get your phone and answer the call or decline the call. You can now just nod your head yes or no while wearing your AirPods to act on a call. So going back to that live transcriptions, which is the thing, again, that's not functioning and can't be shown here, is basically what it is it allows you to effectively record a phone call and transcribe it directly into the Notes app, which is really cool. So this is immensely helpful if you're on, say, a phone call and you need to remember particular information that the caller that you're talking to is telling you. You can record both the call's audio as well as, again, transcribe the text into a note. So it'll do both of those things. The one thing, though, is that once you do or start a recording, the recipient or the caller on the other end will be notified. So you might need to let them know ahead of time that if you're going to record the phone call, that they don't get creeped out once they find out that a call is being recorded. So that's just something to be a little bit of aware there. And then these last two things here are things that'll be coming later this year. The biggest last thing, actually, is what Apple's calling Apple Intelligence. And essentially what this is Apple's suite of AI features, or artificial intelligence features, which cleverly Apple did Apple Intelligence, which has the abbreviation AI, so that's kind of fun. But anyway, so basically what it is it's a suite of AI features that Apple is now going to be implementing within iOS, iPadOS, as well as macOS. It's going to be across all the devices and their softwares. And what it is essentially it's the Apple version of ChatGPT. And what the Apple did show off is that ChatGPT will also be implemented separately within this algorithm or within this new AI feature set. And the device support list for this Apple Intelligence feature set is pretty limited. You have to be having an iPhone, you have to have at least the iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max, any iPad with an M1 chip or later, as well as any Mac computer with Apple Silicon with M1 all the way up through M4, I believe is where we're at currently. So unfortunately, any old iOS device, iPad or Mac, Intel Mac, will not get this AI update, sadly. And to roll out here, to end the video, I'm going to put up a slide here showing all of the compatible devices for iOS 18. Any device that was currently or is currently running iOS 17 will be updatable to iOS 18. So that is basically the primary bullet points for iOS 18. And a lot of this corresponds to iPadOS 18 as well. There's just a little bit of changes that are specific to the iPad and the Apple Pencil. I will be having a series of videos coming up here, basically going into depth into a lot of these features on their own. So say the home screen customization, control center customization, the Photos app, various things like that. I'll kind of make a video dedicated to each of those things so it's not all over the place and it's just a little bit more streamlined. But this video was just to give a quick hands-on the new iOS 18 Beta 1. So yes, with that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.